Welcome to the Nevada County Tech Connection here at the Nevada County Tech Hub. This is an initiative of the Economic Resource Council of Nevada County. Tonight we're talking about solar, surprisingly, with the power outages going on. It's a hot topic of interest. With us this evening is Mathew, the founder of Planet Solar. Planet Solar and their affiliate, Sierra Solar Incorporated, were founded in 1980 and 2001. The consolidated company is the market leader in solar panel sales, photovoltaic system design, and solar system installation in 7 counties of Northern California. They are pioneers in solar energy cost payback analysis, and since 1980, they have installed over 3,575 systems from thousands of homes, schools, churches, municipal installations, and corporate megagrids, with all types of roof mounts, ground mounts, and off-grid systems. Now, without much further ado, I've got Mathew to talk a whole lot more about this than I can for you folks. Thanks for coming.
Well, I am Mathew, and I have back here my associate Aaron Martin, who's really my tech guy. I'm the pretty face. He's the guy that really knows what's going on here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to survive a little in a PSBS. I'm sorry, that's a PSPS. I didn't mean to say that, did I? But as we all know, that's going to happen sometime tomorrow for most of Nevada County, but not the hospital, I'm happy to say. They are going to be exempt from that. I just came from a meeting at the hospital, and they are going to be exempt from that blackout tomorrow. So we're going to talk a little bit about the good and the better and the almost the best tonight. Energy storage is the new frontier in the solar world. It's easy to create energy, but how do you actually store it? How do you make it available to you when you need it? And we're going to talk about a couple of really simple, easy ways to do that for the home office that has a computer, a router, and a lamp that you're going to need. Here's an energy storage system that you can buy. Runs you somewhere in the neighborhood of about $750,000 for that. Or you can go to this great big box here, an energy storage system. But the energy storage system that we're going to talk about tonight is something you're a little more familiar with, and that's this battery that sits in your car. So that's an energy source for you to tap into when you need to run your computer at home and your router. What are the power demands for a small office? Well, obviously it's a laptop, 60 to 200 watts, depending on what you've got, a modem, a router, and then for geeks, you guys need a monitor because you can't work off of a laptop. Oh yeah, you need a lamp, okay? And then one more, if you want to keep the beer cold, then you need a refrigerator. But you can see here the total of those items, about 460 watts. That's what that's going to consume. Now I'm going to ask Aaron to come up and talk about how you do the good with this.
Yeah, I'm just here to kind of show you basically how to utilize your car battery when the power goes off. There's the first step right there is we need batteries. So the car has a battery in it. I brought in this, little example here that just shows you something that's in your car battery. And, little inverters for... these run about $45 for just a little inverter that have the little outlet onto it with even a little spot to charge your cell phone also. That just, all you really have to know is that the red goes to your, black lead on the battery, and the, the black one goes to your negative lead on the battery. And that way you can have just a little inverter to run a little, laptop, a little TV, a little stereo, a little listening to the radio or whatever. That's got you something right there. That's what we call, the step one would be, is to have something like that so that you don't just go, I've got no power. What do? I can't charge my cell phone. Well, that's something right away that you could just open up the hood on your car and have a little power source. Now, the second one we were talking about, which is, that was the good, is just having the battery. Well, the little bit better would be to have a little solar panel, and that would be something that you could clamp onto this also, so that you wouldn't have to start your car up and everything to keep your cell phone charging. So the better would be, some type of a little, solar panel that there's anywhere from a 5-watt all the way up to 380-watt now panels. Here's a little panel below here that would just, keep this battery maintained, so you wouldn't even have to start your car on the second option there. And then, our third option is having a little bit bigger solar panel with even twice the size battery here, with, like a 600 to 800 watt inverter that could be powering your refrigerator. Not continuously, but you could, power up your refrigerator and keep that going. Power it up for an hour at a time. Unplug for 3 hours. Unplug for another hour. This would get you for 2 or 3 days on this power cart that he's got some pictures of, that would just sit out there and just wait for that power outage to happen. And we're just trying to talk about the real basic things of, how to back yourself up on a power outage. And then, we might get into later just, how to get your own solar system grid tied with a bigger battery bank and utilize like the Sunny Island, the Skybox, and things like that down the road. So, right. And so, just a real simple, layman's term on just figuring out is that, a solar panel in full sun, let's just say a 100-watt panel, is going to make about 10 amps an hour off that. Just a simple rule of thumb. And, and then we back to his proportion there is that, 460 watts would take about 4 hours for this solar panel to fill that back up again. So that's why it's so important to have the battery, the storage, because we have a lot of solar panels on the roof. 95% of the solar we do nowadays doesn't put the batteries on because of the cost of the batteries. So now we're seeing these power, PSPS, and we're starting to talk about the batteries more now because, solar doesn't shine at night. So we want to be able to store that power up during the day off the sun.
On our little example here of our 460 watts, the average battery runs somewhere between 80 and 100 amps. You can run that little 460 watt system for about 2 hours, and then you're going to need to recharge the battery. So we don't want to draw this battery down much below 50% of its capacity. So that battery will last about 2 hours on that computer, that router, and the lamp. Right?
And that's continuously, so you could, a couple minutes here, you go for 20 minutes, turn everything off. What we call them as phantom draws. If you just kept it on, it would maybe run for 4 or 5 hours and just shut itself down. So just, turning your thing, everything off when you're done with it so that it can last for maybe even a day if you really pay attention to it.
So if you've got a home office and you know that you're going to have some power outage incidences 4 or 5 times a year, and you know they're going to last for a day or two, you don't want to be running off your car. So you buy 2, 3, 4 of these batteries, and you get a solar panel, and you hook those up so that you always have that power. And the solar panel will recharge the battery when the sun's out. You're probably going to be using that more often in the evening than you are during the day. Even if you are using it during the day, the solar panels are going to be recharging those batteries to some extent. This solar panel, to recharge this battery from a 50% drawdown, is about 4 hours to recharge this battery. With this panel is...
It's about a 100-watt panel.
100-watt panel, okay. We just brought an old panel just to show that. But the question gets to be, for my small office at Planet Solar, what happens tomorrow when the power is out? And I've got 4 computers, I've got a phone system, I've got an alarm system for the sprinkler system. How do I run all of that stuff? Well, here's another look at doing 2 batteries with the solar panel. Almost the best. There's Aaron with our power cart. That's the actual power cart that we build to sustain outages. That runs our office of those computers and modems and the internet and our phone system all day long. So we can run that all day. We don't show any solar panels with that, but we would hook up 1 or more solar panels to that to recharge the batteries. Aaron, you want to tell them about the capacity on that?
That's 225 amp hours. So, that right there could do that 460 watts for up to, about 8 hours before you got down to 50%. And that's with no solar. That actually has leads right there that we can actually put 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 panels on that. And that's what I do is I have that one charging right now, just ready for this power out, the PSPS that's coming. And you can see I've even got a little cigarette lighter. I've got the 4 outlets on it. It's already got a charge controller built in. It's got the disconnect with even a little percentage of charge on it so I can see what my level is all the time. So I don't even have to guess. I can just see up my batteries are down to 40, 50%. I need to charge up or turn some loads off there so that I can make it over that distance. So we just made that portable so we can do different events and move that around just to show people that power is off the sun is portable. And, it's just all about the battery technology. So I'm actually, excited about these power outages because it's going to get this battery technology down to under $1 a watt. Right now we started at $15 a watt with solar. Solar just didn't make sense for people. They said it just wasn't worth the money. Well, now we've gotten solar down to under $1 a watt because of more people just doing solar. And now our next step is the future of energy storage, and these are old lead acid technology that are over 100 to 50 years old now. So we're starting to see even some lithium, ferrophosphate, lithium, like the Tesla batteries you're hearing about, the LG, the Panasonics. Those are the bigger systems that we're doing that are backing up the whole buildings like this and houses and everything. But, we're talking 15 to 20 grand is what a lot of people are looking at to back their homes up. So that's why we're just showing you the little carts, which are going to get us to those bigger energy solutions, I think.
Talk about costing. This is about a $40 item. $40, you plug it into your car battery, and now you can run your computer on it. You can go on up to, you want to hold the other one up? This is an 800 watt inverter. Do a lot more work, obviously. The battery won't last as long, but a lot more wattage. This is a $100 item right here. Right? If you wanted to add a solar panel to this system and buy one more battery so that you'd have 2 batteries, a solar panel to power those batteries, you're going to be up in the $350 range, $400 range. Right? But that would serve you to do about 400, 500 watts pretty much on a continuous basis when you get 2 batteries. Now you get to the power cart. That's a power cart that we actually built ourselves. That's about a $2,000 cart there. It's got the charge controller in it. It's got the inverter in it. It's got the batteries in it. It's got the switches and all of the plugs and cables on that. So with a couple of solar panels. Yes, sir. Yeah, a lot of people. Okay, so if we're going to talk about a refrigerator adding to those other components that we had, a refrigerator will take somewhere between 500 and 1,000 watts. So we've significantly increased that load, so the battery isn't going to last as long. However, generally speaking, a refrigerator will run about 15 to 20% duty cycle. So it doesn't turn on and run 24 hours a day. It'll run for 10 minutes, it'll go off for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, come on for 10 minutes. So if you watch it, you can run that, you can sustain that fairly well. If you're willing to go out and start your car off of that car battery, then it can kind of run forever.
Most refrigerators are, I'm hoping are more Energy Star nowadays and, more efficient. So something like that could, be on for 15 minutes and unplug it for a couple hours and just kind of keep that refrigerator from spoiling.
When you buy an inverter, should you make sure that it's a sine wave, a full sine wave inverter? That should be important for computers.
Surprisingly not for computers as much as for like TVs and maybe your equipment and everything over there. Because a lot of computers, if you look at this little converter right here, we're actually taking the AC from this grid and we're converting it back to a clean DC source. So I find that all these inverters, they even have a little USB for your phone so it can just take it cleanly. And these are just taking that, dirty AC basically and putting it to a converter that's charging your cell phone or computer. So more about on your probably your washer, some of your more sophisticated stuff in your house is more true sine wave. Like even a washer is like, it sometimes needs that perfect 60 hertz where computers don't as much.
We have an actual story. We donated an off-grid system to the North Star House to run their irrigation system for the Heritage Garden. If anybody's been out to the North Star House and seen that Heritage Garden, all that. So we put in 4 batteries. We put solar panels on the roof of the little shed there, put an inverter in there, and we were all good to go. Unfortunately, we discovered after the fact that the controller for the irrigation needs clean sine wave energy. We had a square wave inverter, and the electronics in this system couldn't handle a square wave. So it is one thing that you want to be careful of. But in January, when we talk about those bigger systems, we'll talk about what those inverters look like. And those will be true sine wave inverters.
Yeah, that's a great question, though. True sine wave, you're going to run everything. Modified might be a couple things that it doesn't like.
So let's see. Well, we have the good, the better, and the almost the best. So what's going to be the best? Well, there it is, right there, box power, made up here right at the airport on Loma Rica Drive. This is a portable system that they design, that they take into third world countries or in areas of disaster, and they can provide anywhere from 22 kW up to 360 kW in these kinds of containers with solar panels like that. So that's available to you. Might not be within your budget though. They wouldn't commit to a price to me, so I can't tell you, but they were reluctant to tell me about that. More questions about small power sources? Yes?
You're welcome to repeat this question into the microphone. With solar panels connected to DC battery, will it discharge that battery when the sun is not shining on the panel, say during the long dark winter night?
Not with the proper charge controller that'll stop it from backfeeding into the panel, and it also regulate it during the daytime too. So there's a little unit in between here that's just a little regulator that basically regulates so that this doesn't overcharge it, and so that at night, what you're talking about is just the power doesn't run back through these wires and short the battery out too. So it's got both of those built into it with the charge control. The charge controllers run about $35 for a small one, up to $800 for a larger one. Yeah, there's 3 or 4 options. There's the Skybox he was referring to by Outback that allow you to bring those high voltage strings in to like a battery source and then a dedicated circuit. For you, I think you're talking about you might have an in-phase system that's an AC coupled. So they're coming out with their battery solution this, right in January. But what it's looking like is like a sunny island that can almost fool the unit and come on with a 240, 240 voltage off a 48 volt battery bank that kind of fools them and shuts the utility off. That's what this, look up the sunny island is probably what they're going to be using, something like that, where it's an AC coupled system that basically, when the power goes off, stops the backflow, makes a 240 AC circuitry that allows your system to wake up and run to a dedicated circuits on that. So, Sunny Island, yeah, and the Skybox is another one. A good solar battery on the lead acid style, about 7 to 8 years on these batteries, and now with the new Simplify batteries, they're saying 10,000 duty cycles, so maybe 27 years on those. So.
When somebody calls up and says, I want to do a battery backup system for a whole house solar system, we go out and we do a site visit and we take and find out which loads are critical to the operation of the house. We isolate those loads off into a sub-panel, and then we just power that sub-panel. So the inverter then that we use for that, it knows that the grid's down and says, I'm going to start working off the batteries. And then the solar is resupplying those batteries. But even so, that kind of a system is anywhere between about $18,000 and $22,000. So it can get to be very expensive. But very good.
But that's why 95% of our solar, systems are batteryless, because PG&E's been so reliable. Why should you guys buy a $15,000 to $20,000 battery bank for their, to have the backup? Most of the time it was, and it still is cheaper to get just that generator. But what we're finding out is if this gets to be more of a norm, which it sounds like it's going to be, that that could be $300 or $400, $500 for fuel just for those last outages. I talked with some friends. That's what they had, was some fuel cost to that, where they've got these solar panels on the roof that are just sitting there, not working, where, that's like the Sunny Island I was referring to, the Skybox. We kind of need these, pretty big units to fool those solar systems with a battery bank. And like Gil said, that's the hardest part, is dedicating that critical parts of your house, because everybody says, I just want my whole house put back. Well, we got to find this, the dedicated circuits, because we're not going to run everything on your house. Automatic transfer switch built into those things that the generators sometimes are coming with now, or you're buying separately with the generators, is just to isolate that grid. So when it doesn't see any power from the grid, it stops that from back feeding into them. So that's what a lot of these have, is the MOSFET switch in there, just the transfer switch. So when there's no power, it stops the backflow so that we don't hurt any linemen. That was one of the first things when I started solar, was from the lineman, I hope your solar system doesn't hurt the first lineman. And I'm like, well, what are we talking about? It has a transformer switch so it won't backfeed in. And they go, oh, well, I'm glad to know that. So they, we've had all this stuff in there a long time ago for that reason right there. And that's why we're seeing all these generators go in that don't have the proper switches on them sometimes in their backfeeding. Go ahead. Yeah, he's referring to, I think, all the electric cars. I mean, everybody's jumped in. Tesla, thank you for getting all those electric car people started that, now they're getting 10, 20K battery banks that are the 400 to 500 volts, DC packs, just like your Tesla, LG, and Panasonics. That's basically what he's doing, is he's mass producing the electric cars, and the side effects are these power walls now. So that's a great question. I think what we're going to have is eventually you're going to plug your car into a socket and it'll backfeed. I mean, that's coming, I think, with this stuff. It really is. I mean, this is what we're already seeing now, is school districts going to electric buses. So when in the summertime, when the power gets hard to get to, guess what? All those buses are charged up. They're not even being used for the school. They're going to power off those big battery banks to keep the grid up. So that is already starting to happen now, just at the household level, just not yet, Right. Well, I think, the portable kit's something for the renters, because you own that. You can take it with you to the next rental place. You can, power up your loads in the house with an extension cord off that. I mean, that's, kind of what I like about off-grid systems, is they're all portable. I mean, people go, why would I spend 10, 20 grand on a system? I go, well, because if you want to move over here, you just unhook it all and you take it with you to over here. Where the grid tie system's a little bit different, because, we're tying it in through the county. It's tied in, it's permitted and everything, and it's going to sell with that house. We're not going to move it. I've had one person move it back in the beginning of the days when people didn't understand solar. And he said, you know what, I'm going to just take that 15 grand and I'm going to move it over to my new house, because nobody understands the resale value of this stuff. But we're starting to get there now, where people are understanding that. But for renters, that's what I would say, is just have the little portable cart, and be ready. Have a little, just a little inverter ready to go. So when the power goes off, hey, go out to my car, I can charge up my cell phone, get on my laptop, see what the news is, Because it's not all that much power just to stay informed and have that stuff, and to maybe back up your refrigerator or something like that. Because I think that's the biggest thing most people, I get that call every day. I just want to do my refrigerator. Well, there's the whole house option of 15 to 20 grand, or, a couple $100 for small little kits like that. I think is the best thing.
So full disclosure here, I just want to tell you that Aaron has lived off-grid for the last 28 years. So when he's talking about how this all works, he really knows what he's talking about. Not only that, he raised 2 children off-grid. Of course, they've moved away and gone to the grid, so we're not so sure about that.
They'll come back.
But Aaron, how many years have you gotten solar?
Gosh, let's see, about almost, my son is 28 now, so about 28 years. We moved out to the land with no power, and just, had a midwife out there, and, just kind of learned about the solar kind of every day, just watching the sun come down, and started off with this almost exact power cart that started to run my house. And I was like, hey, I can listen to the stereo. I can listen. I got power out here. What are you talking about? I don't need to rent that power. And I'm just a big proponent of owning our power. That's why, I think it's important to, if you're going to own, get into solar, to kind of understand what you're getting into to owning that, and, what your paybacks are, so you can explain it to the next person, Yeah, I think our future is on, the battery side of it. It's just, it's like kind of like the VCRs. What were they, $1,000 to $1,500 when they first came out? That's our biggest hurdle right now, is just getting the price of the batteries. The battery, once we can mass produce those things, they're going to get down in cost, kind of like our solar was. We wouldn't even be talking solar if we hadn't got it from $15 a watt down to under $1 now. So. Well, and this is the pioneer of fueling we're talking about here. That's why we're just trying to get the conversation. It's like in Europe, when the train goes downhill, guess what? It's powering the train uphill. So they've been doing it for hundreds of years now, and it's just a matter of, we're starting to pay attention to the energy more as they cut it off on us now. So it'll be more exciting as, more of this happens for us to have these meetings and help us get through these things. So
So thanks so much for being here.